gonna miss tonight? Does anyone know?
I didn't hear anything on my end.
Yeah, and I don't see anything either, so.
All right, Bill, you are live and ready to go.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, welcome everyone to the August 4th, 2020 Henrietta Conservation Board. I will remind you that the meeting is being recorded. We have a quorum, and the first thing on the agenda is the minutes, approval of the minutes for June 30th, 2020. They were emailed to you. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Robin? Thank you, Bud.
25 pages of it.
Any discussion? Changes or revisions? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Very good. Minutes are carried. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0 approved. Are there any board member reports?
I think we should commend our staff for the fantastic job they did in setting up the Zoom conferencing and especially the transcribing and the minutes and everything else. They were fantastic, going beyond the call of duty.
It's a lot of work.
It was.
It's been a great job.
Yeah.
And, really, everyone's done a great job with the COVID process. You know, it's everyone's been thrown into it. You know, so awesome. If there's no other reports, we'll move on to applications. Item 20004, Riverwood Tech Campus, Building E, for review of final site plan of a proposed 3-story, 40,625 square foot industrial building on a 10.2 acre lot located at what will be known as 4485 East River Road in the industrial zone district. And do we have a presenter? Hi. Good evening. Good evening.
My name is James Friedhouse. I'm with BME Associates.
Hi, James.
Here this evening is Joe Bader from Riverwood Tech Campus LLC.
Hi, Joe.
Fred and Senior will apologize. They don't have practice.
I'm sorry, can you check the microphone on the podium? Is that on, James?
No.
Oh, is that better? Oh, there we go.
That's better, thank you.
All right, let me just start over a little bit. Yep.
Yeah.
Again, my name is James Priedikos. I'm with BME Associates. Joe Bader with Riverwood Tech Campus LLC. Fred and Fred's father both apologize for having prior commitments tonight, but Joe works with us on every project we're involved in, so he has an adamant knowledge of everything as well. We are excited to be back for this next building out at Riverwood. If you recall, about 2 years ago, we were in, me and Fred Sr., to discuss a lot of improvements that we've completed over the last year and a half or so at the Riverwood Tech Campus. Again, if you haven't ever been out to the site, we do implore you to go out and check out all the improvements and everything and the trail system that was created along the Genesee River. Everything is very beautiful, and it's very aesthetically pleasing at this point now. It's very proud of the revitalization that has been accomplished there. As was kind of noted, we're proposing to subdivide off about a 10-acre portion of the campus for the construction of the 5th building on site. This is Building E. If you remember back when we were here about 2 years ago, we did have a little bit of a different configuration with this building. This used to be an 80,000 square foot 1-story building. The footprint was quite a bit more extensive than what we've been able to scale it back to. The main component of this change was the function of changing the building from a 1-story to a 3-story, but also that the first story of the building is actually open aired, and we are going to be doing open aired parking under it. So we're able to have about 80 parking spaces on what would be the first floor level of the building, which allows us to actually reduce the entire proposed impervious footprint for this area by about 1 acre compared to what we had originally proposed. And a part of that original proposal included all of the stormwater design, all of the erosion control features and things like that that were part of the the application. They were only provided schematically, but they were part of our discussions and stormwater permitting. So we are happy to be able to scale back that impact and provide the extra green space, which has kind of just, the whole footprint's kind of shrunk in a little bit. So we are still looking to preserve all of the existing trees out there. I don't think we have any clearing at all. Everything for this area was done previously. This has been the location that we've used to place all the excess fill materials and balance the site. So we've been able to keep all the materials from the parking lot constructions and expansions, the other stormwater facilities, and take it over to this area to prevent it from going on the roadways and causing other environmental impacts. So with that, we are excited for this feature out here. We will have 2 access points to the property. One will continue to be off the northern entrance into the Riverwood campus. That is the entrance right there, just north of Lehigh Station. There are still plans to do the improvements at that intersection from the county, and that's going to happen, I believe, in 2024 is when it's slated to happen. At that time, we'll be realigning that access road so it'll have a more linear approach and connect, so make a 4-way intersection there. At that point, we're going to be taking out a portion of that northern entrance, turning it back to lawn, and then reconnecting this development back to that main road. One of the cool features about this site is where this sits kind of in relation to the other building. This building's a bit lower than the other Riverwood building. If you've been out to site, if you drive in that access drive, you'll notice that the area is pretty low. So even though this is a 3-story building at this location, the 3rd story of this structure is approximately equal with just the 1st story of the rest of the campus. So when you're on the 2nd or 3rd floors of the Riverwood Tech Campus primary buildings, you'll actually kind of be looking slightly down at this building. And one of the things that Fred Rinaldi Jr. was talking about with the town board last week is we're looking to kind of soften that view experience. And it wasn't part of our original application when we originally made it back in February or March of this year. We apologize for the tabling of the meetings during the COVID period. But as you can tell, we don't really want, or Fred doesn't really want his patrons to be looking at mechanical equipment and things. So we've been exploring different applications. And I know Fred has always been very excited to implement a true green roof on one of his projects for many years. And this is one of the prime applications that he's looking at doing it on. So hopefully with everything that's going on, he's going to be creating a nice amenity for this building specifically. And then as well as softening kind of the views from the other buildings. Some of the renderings that we sent over, Heather, if you want to scroll to, I think pages 3 through 5, these are the same renderings that I have down here on the floor, but obviously to allow the people online to see them as well. Perfect. So this is looking from the parking lot kind of toward the main entrance. Again, you can kind of see how the upper floors, the 2nd and 3rd, will have, a glass treatment similar to a lot of the other areas on the Riverwood campus buildings. We'll have minimal foundation plantings out here, similar to the rest of the buildings, really trying to tie the architecture in and make it into, a nice complete unit. Heather, if you want to keep scrolling to the next one. So this is looking over from, which would be on top of building B at the Riverwood Tech campus. Building A is kind of the building that's a little bit separated. They're all connected by underground tunnels and things, but this is the easternmost. You can kind of see on the lower left portion, that's where the access is into like the lowest level of the Riverwood Tech campus, the kind of the underground parking where they have some other amenities like their sports facilities and areas where they can rent kayaks out to people who want to take them out in the Genesee River and such. But the building kind of about central to the image there, that is what we're proposing to be building here. Again, we're preserving all the existing tree line along the riparian stream to the north, minimizing the disturbance and the impact on everything we've done out here. And again, I implore you to go to the site and just see all the things kind of above and beyond that the Rinaldis have put into the site, even beyond what was approved. I know specifically from this morning, walking a site with Fred Jr. with a landscaper out in Victor, and he just continually added tons of plants and stuff that, you know, are above and beyond whatever we needed to do out there. So for stormwater on this, we're going to be managing similar to what we had originally proposed. There's two kind of large bioretention areas that are going to be located to the north of the site. They'll take all the runoff from the site, treat it for quality, as well as providing some extended detention under the bigger storms. And that will discharge into the tributary, which then connects right into the Genesee River. All these design and calculations, you know, were submitted again with the original report. With this current one, we provided updated calculations based on the reduction in scale from our development, you know, reducing the amount of runoff from the reduction in impervious. Sanitary sewers, straightforward. We installed the trunk line extending off the main branch owned by Pure Waters along the Genesee River. So we've already brought it over. So it's just basically tying in the one service connection from this to do that. Water, we're going to be connecting a new service off of East River Road. Very straightforward, just a typical application to the Water Authority. Lighting, we're going to imply some obviously dark sky compliant fixtures. We're going to do some bollard lightings along some of the walkways to illuminate kind of the main entrance a little bit, as well as some other minor decorative lighting on the undersides of the building, you know, shining down onto the parking area. Landscaping, as I mentioned, we're looking to minimize the disturbance as much as possible by not removing any trees. Where we do need some kind of break between the drive and along the parking areas, we're going to propose some trees as well as a lot of shrubs in the landscaped islands and grasses. However, again, we don't really want to do too many foundation plantings at this time. We really want to bring out the architecture of the building, similar to how it is with the other buildings on campus. If you go up there, there really isn't any foundation plantings around that whole thing. It's just kind of a stone apron treatment. And we're going to kind of keep the same intent with this, with minimal foundation plantings. The other, and then besides the green roof, obviously, which will add some unknown number of trees and plants and, you know, seating and amenity areas. The other kind of exciting thing about the project is we just started construction on the pedestrian bridge that connects the trail here to the trail to the north at the lodge. So I believe we just staked that out today, and I think they're starting construction on that in the next week or two. So that will help to establish the connection that we've kind of been planning for a long time, and allow this to continue north and south along the Genesee River, you know, and be available to the public for their access.
I'm sorry, what will the surface on the trail be? Are you doing stone dust or is it paved or what? What are we?
We're stone dust right now. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, the lodge is mulch once it transitions into our site. We're using stone dust. We are building a trail too, right along the northern part of our parking lot here. That's going to extend out to East River Road and then kind of to the west toward the Genesee River. So this will imply some ADA access on this part of the trail and connect it down into the other part of the trail on our site along the Genesee River heading south that is also ADA compliant. We're reviewing what is necessary for the bridge to see if that's feasible for us to do at this time. But there is a bit of grade difference between our site and the lodge site across the tributary that we're trying to account for. So we still, once we get the bridge kind of set where we can do it, we chose the type of bridge to avoid having to do permitting with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer. Basically, the bridge we chose is long enough to avoid disturbance of the bed and banks. We're 20 plus feet beyond that where our foundations are, and then we're just able to kind of set that bridge. That was all kind of reviewed as part of the other project, but we're just excited to actually finally be getting into construction with that and, you know, expand the trail network that's available to the public. I'm happy to field any other questions you guys have.
So I just have a quick question about the number of parking spaces.
Sure.
So you have the covered parking, which I believe is with the lower level or the first level.
Correct.
And then the rest are just regular parking
Regular
spots?
surface parking.
Okay.
Yep.
And the number was?
I believe it's 383 total, and I believe there's 82 that are covered. So there's about 300 surface spaces, give or take.
Okay, great. Thank you. And you answered for the snow storage as well. So thank you.
Is this the first building that you're actually starting on, the A, B, C, D, and E are actually existing, right? They were part of the original.
A, B, C, and D were original. Yes, the E is the one we're building now. Those buildings were all basically gutted down to steel. All the windows were replaced, and they basically started from essentially ground up with a shell of a building. And I don't know if you've been in there or not, but again, if you can get a tour of the building, it's very impressive what they've done inside and how modernized all these areas are with the high quality tech businesses that have been able to be brought into Henrietta for this. And I know they've been having great success with leasing all their spaces, which is why the need for this additional 80,000 square feet of office is pretty high in demand right now.
To the east of the parking lot, there's quite a drop down area. Was that because this area had fill brought in where all the nice long grass is? Or was that intended as a water retention area? What was what's the purpose of that? Or is it because of a lot of fill was brought in?
So the drop down is, again, it's apparent because we brought in the fill to raise the pad up, and we basically, once we've finished all the other construction out here, when we topography this area again, we were able to really balance it perfectly with this site to limit that. But the site is up a couple feet from the underlying existing conditions, but it's actually a couple feet lower than what we had originally planned it by. We did scale back some other development on other parts of the Riverwood campus. We ended up land banking about 7 acres of parking of wooded area that was proposed to be parking. We wanted to just save the trees. And what we found during this process is with the type of businesses in here, really tech oriented, a lot of the employees work pretty strange hours, come and go as they please. And the parking demand is significantly less than what the town code requires. We also actually reduced the eastern parking lot to the east of building D, kind of you can see right at the south of the rendering here. We actually reduced that by about 0.2 acres as well and brought it in, saved some more green space between that and East River Road. So we've done a lot of things to kind of be mindful of the environment and where, we're reacting to the observed conditions as opposed to just kind of, going by what is required. Because again, the site's gorgeous out there, and what the Rinaldi's have done with it is very fantastic. So
how many acres did you reduce the parking by? To save,
we have land banked about 0.7 acres on the overall
0.7.
campus, and we reduced one parking area by 0.2. And then this Riverwood building E, we've reduced by another acre on top of that. So we're almost at 2 acres of impervious reduction from what we had originally kind of proposed for the entire site, which is pretty impressive.
Now, you stated that there are actually a lot more parking spots that's required by the town than you anticipate using. Is there any possibility that on the eastern end of the parking lot there, that some of that could be land banked until such time as it might be necessary to use it? That's the area where some of the fill.
Absolutely.
Comes up to,
I don't want to commit to anything right now
Sure.
because it's going to be based on the users that end up being in the building and then their staffing needs. So right now we're parked per town code, but obviously as we get further into the process, get through approvals, finish the build out of the interior building for the specific tenants, we'll have a better idea on what their end use is going to be. And then, we would be looking to basically land bank parking starting on the east back toward the building because they're the furthest away from the building anyways. They're the least
if it's
valuable.
necessary, it can always be paved, but if not, it can save a little money on paving.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we're not
As well as a lot more green space. And
Yeah,
you're doing a
and
great job on the green space.
we're not strangers to making adjustments mid-design. We're happy to do so.
Is the cut and fill balanced? The cut and fill? Where's any excess going anywhere?
We won't be taking any excess off. At this point, I believe we have stockpiles just for topsoil on what we need, and the select fill is going to be at a balance. We also have so much space on the site, even if we needed to do a little borrow area or a spoil area, we can easily spread it out where in a way you won't know. Actually, if you go out and go to the west side of Building A, you'll actually notice there's a big mound that we built out of excess material from the parking lot that was made just to the south. And I think they've employed some extra garden features and stuff over there, some agricultural uses that the, or an organic vegetable farm over there. So again, more agricultural things that we really didn't plan, but Fred loves to implement different things for his tenants. So.
Have you taken any soil borings in the area?
We have soil borings from the underlying conditions. We will be doing obviously some more probably once they get into the building foundation. But at this point, we know that everything out there has been placed on 3 to 4 feet of fill. But we did know this was going to be a development. So as it's been placed, it's actually been compacted to what we need it to be. So we're not worried about any settlement or anything like that.
Yeah, do you know what the water table elevation is?
No, but I don't think we've encountered it. It's pretty down
High.
closer to the tributary elevation, which is several 10 feet or so below the building and the parking lot elevation. There is a floodplain line that kind of follows along the creek, but we're well outside of that elevation.
So I actually have a question. So this picture rendering is a little different, I think, than the actual landscaping plan. So in this entrance area, it looks like there's a wide concrete area. But this is the more accurate one.
The renderings are not based fully off of our plan. They're more to represent the building and the kind of the bulking massing. I mean, they do account for, the parking areas and things like that, but they weren't prepared using the landscaping that we propose. So what is proposed on the plans we submitted is what we are intending to do at this time.
Okay.
Obviously, I can't speak to the Rinaldi's going above and beyond when they
Right.
actually get in the field and changing their minds and selecting some other materials.
So I appreciate what you're saying in the sense that they want the architecture of the building to stand out and they're hesitant to plant. My concern is these lawn areas in front of this building are very narrow and they're surrounded by concrete. They're going to get really hot with no shade or minimal shade. I shouldn't say no shade, minimal shade. So my concern is you're going to get some grass burnout because there is some grass burnout from the other buildings currently. So, I mean, I get what they're saying, but have they considered that possibility? You're going to end up with brown grass.
Yeah, they have, and if they need to, obviously they have people out there maintaining the lawns and doing that. And we could always look to do like an irrigation system or something along there. If, it gets to that point. We actively put in conduits for those type of things when we're doing construction, even if we don't actively have them planned at the time. It's always easier to obviously just sleeve some pipes through an existing sleeve as opposed to dig up concrete. And
I think I'd like to kind of make a notation of that just because it's a beautiful building, but with brown grass, it's going to detract from it. And there's nothing else to sort of, add a little bit more beauty. I don't know how else to say it. So, I mean, something really maybe considering the irrigation system just for those. I mean, because those are going to get really hot, and I think they're going to burn out quick.
Okay.
What?
What if we propose for them to look at a different variety or mix? Because that was one of my comments for you guys was, you have a steep slope mix, you have a fire retention mix, and you have a regular lawn mix. And I'm sure it's detailed in the spec somewhere, but maybe there's just an alternative in terms of the seed mix that goes around the building, something that can maybe withstand a little more heat tolerant potentially. And obviously with the size of the building and the orientation, sun, shade, it might not be the same mix that goes all the way around. Something to consider maybe. Absolutely.
I'd be happy to review it with our landscape architect and kind of, discuss these couple points with them. And, we'd be happy to obviously respond to your comments and, provide updated plans to the town as part of our review.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, no, I was picking up on what you were saying.
Yeah, we prefer that to be something more sustainable rather than, needing to water or maintain it
Right.
all the time. If you have something that can live on in the conditions allotted, then
I have a,
Robin.
oh, sorry.
Nope, I think I'm good with that.
Okay, Bud, back to you.
I have a question on aesthetics. You mentioned that the original buildings you had got it down to the steel and then the new windows and the light. But the steel is exposed and it's rusting. In your rendering here, it's got a beautiful surface of, so whether it's glass or whatever on the steel part. Is something going to happen on buildings B, C, and D on basically floor levels, on the outside where the steel beam is showing and it's rusting?
No, I think they're intending on keeping the kind of the rustic look at this point. It's part of kind of the original building architecture. I don't really know how long that look has been like that. I would be surprised if it was ever galvanized at any point. I don't think there was.
It was designed that way. It's for steel. That was one of their architectural features. And part of when we were going through the design on this is you learn that when you're building onto iconic architecture, which we have in those 4 buildings, is that you want to mimic it in some way, which is what you have with the glass surround, and steel. But in this situation, your steel and all your aluminum being anodized color, which kind of sets it off. So if you bring somebody new to the campus, when they show up, you can say, this is the original. These are the 4 buildings that everybody talks about that were built by Kodak, and then this is the new one. So that was kind of the whole idea. Fred Sr. is in love with Cortez steel. If you go past the Culver Road Armory, the building 2 out there where our house is has Cortez steel around it. We have a design for a 3rd building that'll have Cortez steel. It's one of the architectural features that we really enjoyed.
I've always thought that the Kodak building was beautiful, but I guess I hadn't looked at it up close, and that kind of blows me away.
Yeah, it's
I don't see it as attractive.
It's industrial look.
Yeah.
Yeah, very.
That's what's there. Steve,
I'm all set. Thank you.
Also,
anything?
also.
Thanks, Sarah. Robin, all good?
Yep, thank you.
All right, Bud.
You're good.
Okay, cool. Let me read what I have so to make sure I picked up everything. So the applicant stated the following: there's a new fit building E that's changed from the previous submission to a 3-story building. The first story is going to house 80 parking spaces to decrease impervious and increase green space. The land banking and parking was reduced by roughly 2 acres to increase the green space. The trees will be protected and the soil cut fill is balanced. The entrance will be aligned in the future. 3rd story will be at the same level of the existing floors of the existing buildings, existing 1st floors of the existing buildings. So a green roof is being proposed. Plantings are proposed to match the remaining campus. The tree line and trails along the river will be protected. Let me add one more thing here. Hold on. The pedestrian bridge to connect the Stone Dust public trails will be started soon. I'll move that up there. 2 bioretention areas will remain similar to the previous stormwater design, which connect to a local tributary and then to the Genesee River. The lighting will be dark sky compliant. They are proposing minimal foundation plantings to expose the building, but will extend the meadow grasses currently around the site. Fill was moved to raise the 5th building pad. One more second here. The development is outside of the floodplain. And the landscape plans will be modified and possibly enhanced. enhanced, similar to previous construction. Then we had as a comment, consider different seed mixes around the building. The narrow grass strips have browned. The existing narrow grass strips have browned. Different seed mixes will be more durable to the heat and cold, and sun and shade. Does that sound acceptable to everybody?
The only thing I wanted to clarify on there was that you said the green roof is proposed. We didn't include that as part of our original application, and we're
Right.
still kind of reviewing the application out here.
Yeah, I didn't
It's more of a
quite know how to
desire than
word
a,
that. It's being considered. How about that?
right. I'm sure there will be some kind of treatment on the roof to
Sure.
help break up the massing from the other building. Obviously doing a green roof that has amenities and things, but there's a lot of building code issues in terms of safety that we need to work through with
Sure.
the building department. And, at this stage in the game, normally we don't progress the building design at a point that far where we're able to determine all those minute features of it.
Yeah.
We,
So considered is okay, right?
Yes,
Yeah, okay,
yes.
very good. Are there any other comments that anyone would like to add? Or additions?
One that you just fixed.
Sure. Consider different seed mixes around the building. The existing narrow grass strips have browned. Different seed mixes will be more durable and will be able to handle the heat and sun conditions. The various heat and sun conditions, how's that? You want
I
something
don't know
different?
how, can we say that the concern, let's see, consider variable seed mixes, HCB is concerned. I don't know how to word it.
Because of the yeah.
I
Has a
mean,
concern due to the existing grass strips browning?
I mean, the concern is that the grass is totally surrounded by pavement.
Yeah.
And there's no way that, I don't know how to say it.
Yep.
Do you think the wording was okay, Sarah?
I think it gets the point across.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe we understand the intent. We're just looking for something that is more resistant or of a different kind of treatment, or maybe even proposing some kind of plantings to help break up the massing and reduce the heat effect, the heat island effect from the pavement.
Right.
Yeah, I really think it's just like looking at a different variety or mix. I mean, there's hundreds of them.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we could look at doing kind of like lower maintenance meadow type of mix, and just we could maintain it a little bit more regularly to keep it down to kind of the height that, is desired. So.
Okay, how about? All right, so I rewrote something. The HCB is concerned with the grass strips surrounded by concrete. The existing narrow grass strips have browned. Consider different seed mixes around the building in order to be more durable to the heat and sun exposure.
Mhm.
All right, good. Goody. Any other comments?
that includes the land banked parking?
Yeah, I had that they stated, let's see, that they had a change from 3 to 3 stories. The first story will hold 80 parking spaces to decrease impervious and increase green space. The land banking and parking was reduced by roughly 2 acres to increase green space. Did you want to add something, a comment
Yeah,
to which
That's
side?
what's already been done in the plans, but I'm saying, let's land bank some of the parking in that east end of the parking lot,
Okay,
grass and maintenance. If it needs to be paved at some later time, okay, but unless as you start to occupy the building, you find it's necessary, that's one thing. But from your projections, it sounds like, you could take the eastern third of that parking lot and have it be.
Well, I don't think we know the users yet, so until we determine that, I don't think we would make a
Yeah.
change to the land bank. I think that would be something more that we would look to do ourselves. So I would maybe, if you could word it some way, as, once we've determined the users, review the total proposed parking to see if spaces can be land banked to increase green space.
So, and the planning board will understand that what we're asking is, that yes, that's what the code says is required.
Right.
But we have dozens of applications where they found that it wasn't necessary and felt originally it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And they landscaped it first, or grass, didn't pave it, and found they didn't have to. And that, and the planning board needs to know that
Right. And
Conservation board feels that that's something that needs to be looked at.
And like I had mentioned before, as we initiated that process with the town engineer, with Chris Martin, on the other phases of the project, and actually updated our site plan that was approved for Riverwood, so we could land bank spaces that weren't originally planned. So we're happy to promote as much green space out on the Riverwood campus as we possibly
I
can,
think
which
we're
is,
all on the same page. It's
Right.
just a question of what, we're not saying it has to be, but,
Yeah.
please consider that.
So you want to add a second note stating something like considers land banking the eastern portion of the parking lot.
Part of it, yes, the eastern portion of
Yeah,
the eastern parking lot.
Yeah.
If that can be done, that'll make it a lot nicer. And when they level that all up again, fill in with.
well, there's actually a wetland in the area right by the road. We aren't going to be going into that except for the walkway that we're going to be building on piers, like a boardwalk status.
So you're okay with that wording?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay with that wording there, bud?
I'm fine.
Yeah, everyone okay? All right, any other comments? I need a motion for this, please.
I'll motion.
Steven. Fabian. If there's no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you for coming in.
Of course.
And nice job.
Hopefully we'll see you soon on the next one.
Right.
Good job.
Thank you.
This guy's a minute to. Next application is number 20008, Silveroli Trucking for review of final site plan of a proposed 13,333 square foot commercial trucking building located at 85 Silveroli Drive in an industrial mixed-use zone district. Starting to recognize this one. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Steve. There you go. Yeah, I think you're 6 feet away, so.
Okay, thanks. Hello,
I'm Scott Harder. I remember some of the faces behind the masks. It's a little more challenging these days. I'm here representing Civil Trucking, which is, based on the last presentation, quite different, I would say, in terms of site elements. That was certainly a nice presentation about a nice area, and I have to say, comparatively, we have quite an open site with not a lot of vegetation to preserve, and it's been used industrially for many years, as most of you know. The project does, however, have some environmental aspects, such as Red Creek to the west and wetlands which follow Red Creek, from which there is a 100-foot buffer. We also have a floodplain. The proposal is to construct a 13,000 square foot building on a newly created 5.1 acre lot. This is essentially duplicating the Civil Trucking building immediately to the north that was sold to Casella Waste Systems. The site layout is very, very similar to what was constructed about 20 years ago when that building was first built. In terms of site constraints and site layout, we too decided to go with a bio-retention pond because of the new stormwater regs that are out, the phase 2, and the proximity of Red Creek to the west, which seems to be a very convenient location to take our treated waste, our treated stormwater. Once again, it's fairly duplicative of what was there 20 years ago. We contracted with a landscape architect to provide us with a landscape architecture plan that's in our drawing set. At the time that was created, we did not have our bioretention area completely done in terms of layout, so we left that open, but that will be landscaped as well with the proper plantings that the DEC recommends. Soils out there are disturbed. It's been soil processed. It's been affected in many different ways over the years. We did soil borings as part of the examination for the foundation. Borings went down 10 feet. We didn't find groundwater. We found highly compact and variable soils. I heard a question about cut and fill. We have tried to create a fill balance here. We still have to run some more numbers to take into consideration the imported soil that will be brought in for the bioretention area. We may have a slight surplus, but we haven't finalized those numbers just yet. Lighting, as Henrietta requires, is dark sky compliant. We really only show lighting on the buildings. The owner asked that we not show lighting around the perimeter of the parking as we had done on the previous building because the trucks tend to hit them. Landscaping to the front is limited to largely ground-based plantings. That's because of the high tension wires and our need for an easement from now National Grid in order to cross a sliver of their property to get to this location, as we did for the site directly to the north 20 years ago. So that's kind of the overview of the project. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is there a parking lot around this building, or any parking there?
We're proposing parking on the north and south sides of it, and also on the east side of it.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. And surface drainage has been designed, or drainage has been designed to just be surface drainage, draining from a high point approximately near the entrance to the westerly side where it falls into the bioretention area. So there's no closed conduit storm sewer. And we're not draining into the storm sewer, which is in the private drive, Civil Drive.
the other parcels of Silverall coming down the drive all have substantial grassy area on the frontage. That lot right now has substantially large, manicured lawn or mowed lawn. And it appears that you're taking that all out and paving it and going to have it just parking. Is that true? And if so, is there some place where you're, other than the bushes that you show, any place where you're going to keep green on the parcel, green space?
All the area underneath the wires is not to be touched with the exception of the entrances and the exits, the one entrance and the one exit. The rest is all to be lawn. So this area in here, this is all lawn. Sorry, I'm bringing color up. If you look at our landscape plan, it's probably where the landscaping plantings begin is also where the lawn area begins. Or the grass is right here, more to your point, I'm sorry. This area in here is all to be retained as lawn as it currently is. And then after you pass the high tension wires, that's the point at which we start the parking area.
Okay.
If you want a really good idea of what it's going to look at, it's almost a twin to the building immediately to the north.
Okay. And as I was looking at it, I was thinking that the parking lot, that the parking spaces were actually right on Silverall Drive, which it really isn't. It's set back.
Yes.
And you got, okay, and the power lines that run down there, that's fine, because you do a nice job of keeping that.
Yes.
green. And I know, I need the green, we need 25% green space. That, plays a big part of that.
And I think when you drive down Silverall Drive, and you look on the west side there, you'll see that here, although it is an industrial use and everything is kind of set back. It's not in your face, so to speak.
Right, and for that reason, I mean, this seemed quite a shock, and I viewed the area, and I thought, I'm going to lose on that lawn, but I was misreading it. Thank you.
So the power lines work in our favor. They force us to be back.
Yeah, and that works well, and it's what you want too, so you want to look good, and we want it to look good. Okay.
So what, along those lines of green space, what is the percentage that you end up with?
I'm sorry?
The percentage acreage that you end up with as green space?
I think, I don't know if I have those numbers exactly with me.
Or an acreage. Do you have a disturbed acreage?
On sheet 2, our total lot coverage proposed is 47.4%. Our available green space is 52.6%.
Yep.
That's it?
Is that okay?
That's nice. That's good.
Mm-hmm. And how many acres are you proposing disturbance?
We're proposing to disturb about 3 acres, as I recall.
3 acres.
Of the 5.5.
Of the 5.5, yeah. Because our total lot coverage is 2.6 acres, so we're going to disturb more than we're covering, so about 3 acres, yeah, that seems about right.
And that's, so roughly, if it's 2.6, say 3, so do they have 24? Do they have the 8 trees per acre?
Is there?
I take it back. I'm not sure number of trees.
24.
24?
Yeah.
You got it? Okay. Beauty. Are the trees durable and are they of good
Yeah, I think the
choice?
landscaping plan is pretty well done. The species and variety. The only thing I would wonder is your planting beds that are in the front entrance along the road, what type of edge are you using for those planting beds to keep any types of weeds from, is it gonna be like a metal edge, a spade cut? And if we don't know, then I guess I would just clarify that with the landscape architect.
And my answer would be, I don't know. That's not my strong suit, but I'd be happy to get an answer for you. And if you have a recommendation for us, we'll certainly take that recommendation.
I don't know if the town necessarily has a requirement, but I just think a nice edge. It's hard to do a metal edge when they're curvilinear like this, but something to keep those weeds from the lawn. And it's pretty well manicured in here in this area.
Yes, it is.
But still, they have a way of making their way into planting beds and then overtaking the mulch and the plants and stuff.
Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Has this plan received comments from the town yet? Like the engineering, has engineering done the review? Do we know?
I don't know.
The only other thing I would probably add is the details should get swapped out. The shrub planting and the tree planting details with the town standard.
Okay. I don't think our landscape architect knew that.
That's okay. They're just they're older and more dated.
Okay. We can certainly replace those.
An easy fix.
Yeah.
Those were more recently updated, correct?
Yeah, the ones that are on the plan are really old. They have some older references.
Yes, Robin?
So I just have a quick question. So I'm assuming you're going to be storing trucks here?
The owner stores, stores the tractors, I guess you could say, the units that pull the trailers. That's where we've provided parking along the sides. And there may be some trailers, to my understanding, themselves, but not to a huge extent.
Okay. Washing them and things like that, is that going to take place there? I mean, I'm assuming they're traveling over the highway, they're going to come back, they're going to get rinsed down. Where I'm going with this is I'm just wondering about, if you're washing it on site, it's going to pick up contaminants. What is around there to contain that?
I'm not aware of washing operations. I'm aware of service operations within the building itself.
Okay. And
I'm not aware of washing operations.
okay, so they don't intend to wash those outside.
Not that I've been informed.
Okay.
Anything else? All set? Yeah.
Could I ask a question? Henrietta, Town Supervisor, just a quick question. Following up on that last question, even without washing out, if they're sitting there, rain's going to carry it down. I assume there's something that's going to stormwater management to keep that just from sheeting right down into the Red Creek.
Yes, as part of our overall surface drainage plan, we have a soil collection area prior to bioretention areas. We have actually a two-level treatment process here.
Great, thank you.
All set? Steve? Bud?
Yep, looking good.
Okay. Stephen?
Yeah, thank you.
All set? Fabian?
All set.
Yeah. Sarah? Okay. So let me read what I have. I'm going to change some of this, so if you bear with me, I think I'm going to put that last comment and move it up because it pertains to stormwater. Second. Okay. So stormwater will be sheet drainage. You know what? I'm going to start with the building description. That was, here we go. This is the first one here. Sorry, I'm going to restart. The layout proposed is to match the existing building. Stormwater will be sheet drainage. Bioretention is proposed and will be used to treat stormwater that flows to Red Creek to the west. Exterior tractor storage and interior service operations are proposed. No washing operations are known of, but there will be a two-level bio treatment process to handle the stormwater. Soils have been disturbed and mixed, but the cut and fill is balanced. The lighting is dark sky compliant and it will be building mounted. There are no pole lighting. No pole lighting is proposed. 52.6% green space is proposed with 3 acres of disturbance and 24 new trees, which meets the HCB requirements. We had as comments, consider a durable edge in the planting beds to reduce weed infiltration and also revise the details to the latest town of Henrietta standards. Any other comments?
Can you go back up to the two-step bio?
Yep. Do you want the second part of that? The exterior tractor storage and interior service operations are proposed. There are no washing operations known of, but there will be a 2-level biotreatment area to handle stormwater.
2-level biotreatment area to contain, what did you say, to contain stormwater? Can we say a 2-level biotreatment area that should contain any incidental runoff from stored trucks or any incidental contaminant, something to that effect?
Okay, so there'll be a 2-level biotreatment area to treat stormwater and contain contaminants from trucking contaminants.
Any incidental contaminants from parked trucks, yes, perfect.
Would that include like the snow piece too? Like for snow and snow storage? Or however the snow is going to be removed?
Oh, because you're saying they'll take it, they're going to put it
Right, good
elsewhere
point,
where it
Steve.
won't sheet into the 2-step process.
Yeah.
Does the swale head over towards the snow storage area?
Yeah, essentially what we have.
Yep.
Before water fills the forebay, then it spills into the bioretention area and filters through. Eventually, trickles out down here under the peak, double storms, then you overflow on a level spreader to Red Creek. I just wanted to mention, I think when I started out my presentation, I said 5.1 acres. It's actually 5.5 acres. I was thinking to myself, those numbers I quoted you for the coverage didn't make sense with 5.1 acres. It's 5.5 acres.
Okay.
Do you want anything added to the comments, Stephen?
No, because I'm assuming storage has got to come this direction. So it should all get caught by the swales
Yeah.
and dump
Okay.
through the two-step, right? Because you're not going to put it out here, then you can't see the exit.
Okay.
Right.
So I would think it's got to be either corner or right in here.
We'll add that you stated the swale should be able to handle the snow storage
Yeah.
as well, right? So rereading that last part, no washing operations are known, but there will be a 2-level biotreatment area to treat stormwater and contain contaminants from parked trucks. The swale should be able to handle the stored snow.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe the contaminants from the stored snow. All right. Any other comments for that? We have the two, the durable edge and the detail comment. If there are no other comments, I do need a motion.
We approve the overall.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Thank you, Robin. Any other discussion? Nope. There being none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, nice to see you all again.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
Hey, Scott.
How are you?
Good, you?
Great. Are there any other items for tonight? I have.
Bye.
Scott, take care of Scott.
I have the next meeting as September 1st. Just for your records, and if there are no other items.
Yep. Just some information. We did apply for a grant for looking at a pilot project for composting. And basically there would be two different versions. One is vermiculture based, so worms. And then the other one is based on mushroom substrates and biochar. So basically, if we get the grants, it's from the Department of Agriculture, I believe. It would pay to do that. The town would have to contribute largely manpower and land, and it's done in partnership. But basically, if we get it, we're going to want to go and pick some sites. We have some candidate sites, but if there's folks from the Conservation Board who are interested in being part of that project, should it come through, let me know. It was one of those that was kind of a Herculean effort. Someone came across it and said, "Oh, it's due next week. Can we get it done?" Well, we did. We had about an hour and a half to spare, but so we got a commitment from RIT, the Institute for Sustainability. They will be doing a bunch of analysis, because one of the things we're going to look to see is there's been some indications that the use of some of the biochar and mushroom substrate, if you work it together, you can actually reduce the compost time by about 45%. And therefore, if you have multiple pits, you can turn them over quicker and get the stuff through and therefore be able to do it on a smaller site. We're looking at basically this is going to be, waste streams from restaurants, from food processing, stuff like that. And we're trying to keep it local. It would be open for more, but the idea is it's part of a test project to see, instead of these big fills like they have in, I think it's Geneva, there would be, multiples of these smaller ones throughout the county, because one of the impediments for participation in these programs is the trucking. And so the point is, we're looking at, in fact, one of the locations we're potentially looking at is over on Middle Road. It's right in the center of town. It's very easy for someone to drop by, and or even for, we've talked about for residential participation, that we would essentially have a collection bin that people could essentially bring their own bins and drop it there. So just wanted to let you know that's something we're working on. Don't know whether it's going to come through or not, but
That's great.
something we're doing in that effort. So
Is there, are there opportunities to help build? Is that the action here, or?
well, so again, if we get the grant, yeah, then we're going to start, essentially designing it.
Yeah.
There's some designs already out there that we'd most likely use, and again, we put in some candidate ones. But it's site selection. It's looking at things, how to control, to make sure there's no runoff, how to deal with the odors, how to deal with, all that stuff. So, like I said, it's access, but, again, just that we essentially put together a team if we get the grant. So,
yeah.
And that's what the grant's essentially paying for.
Or would there be any opportunity for scout troops or volunteers to hop in too? Once something's rolling, obviously.
Sure. I mean, especially, not necessarily in the construction of the trenches, but,
Right.
As we start to look at how can we get the word out, how can we do the collections, right? That might
Sure.
be one of the things is, maybe scouts organize a collection where they go through a neighborhood, pick up the baskets, bring them, dump them, and return the baskets. Or, there's a lot of different things we can explore. But, again, what we're trying to do is a proof of concept to show that if you build a bunch of these, you could greatly reduce the amount of compostable material that ends up in landfills.
Yeah.
Right now, again, what you see a lot of the issue is it's not convenient. And, I know people will say, oh, well, there's only so much you can go out of your way typically to participate in that type of program. We've got a compost basket, but I'll tell you, we don't use our compost material. The second stage of what we're looking to do with this is another place where we could certainly use help. So I've enlisted RIT's aid to set up a tree nursery on their southern part of their property. So one of the things that comes out of the mushroom substrate, they mix it with coffee grounds and I forgot what else, and it produces a really good tree food, for lack of a better way to put it. You get from the forestry department all these little trees that you could never plant in a park because they would get destroyed. So the idea is, let's look at setting up a nursery, get them to where they grow a large enough caliber that you could then transplant them into the parks and start to reforest the town, especially with the loss of all of the ash trees.
Yeah.
So some of what we're looking at, and like I said, we'll certainly, if we should get this, we're going to need folks with some knowledge and interest in helping make this happen. So the good news is there's a couple groups out there, again, including the RIT Golisano Institute for Sustainability that have been helping on this project. So
would it be something for residential use as well? Like, could the residents of Henrietta use it in their gardens?
Yes.
This whole garden is just booming this year. People are grabbing chickens and plants, and I would say with that, we compost, and chickens make great addition to any compost.
Sure. Yeah, so we would definitely take a look at that, and maybe we do something where to get compost out, you have to supply material in from a residential standpoint. I don't know what what's interesting is the way they're talking about potentially supporting it in the long run is essentially tipping fees. So the tipping fees would go to the compost site instead of to the garbage transfer station. And I pointed out to them when they were talking about it, I said, you do realize that we normally get those tipping fees, so you're taking it out of our pocket. But I said, it's something we can certainly look at. But there's other potential ways to handle that. Although, like I said, a lot of stuff, once you get it set up, there's some maintenance, but I'll tell you the vermiculture one that we were looking at, and I unfortunately don't remember the name of the specific trough that they're using, but it doesn't require turning. You put it in, the worms turn it. So nice. It's basically you fill it up, you seal it up, you go to the next one, and they rotate. And again, if they can get the time down short enough, then you can just be constantly turning it over. And then, again, then you have to ship it out. And at that point, yeah, I could see where we could have a, compost come pick up. Anyone in the program, pick up the compost. So something to look at.
It's good, especially with the, if we can stop using plastic bags and stop using, that,
right.
Change our way of thinking there. Great.
Okay, so I'll keep you up to date. Like I said, have no idea how long the state's going to take. It's even possible that everything will be put on hold until next year because of COVID. Who knows? But like I said, we at least got the grant in. Although I think that one is actually, I think that might have been federal. Now I think about it because of where we had to go to grants.gov, which is, I'm pretty sure, federal.
Okay.
Steve, you said the second type was the mushroom substrate. What was the first one with the worms? What's it called?
Vermiculture, VERMI culture. Thanks to this project, I was able to get an answer on Jeopardy. My wife and I watched Jeopardy. It came up, and it wasn't vermiculture, but it was vermi something, and it was worm-like spaghetti. It was vermicelli. She's like, how'd you know that? So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, the two extremes, we've got the solar farms and we've got the compost
that's great.
farms.
Yeah.
What are we going to call it?
I agree. Good. Well, if there's nothing else, does anyone have anything else? Good. If there's nothing else, I need a motion for adjournment. Robin, the second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Stephen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
September
We'll
1st.
see you on the 1st, right? And have a good rest of the month, and it's good to see everyone.
Stay safe.
Yeah, good to be seen too, right?
Yes.